Hello everyone. Welcome back to the emotional journey of Tieu Ca and her little daughter Tieu Han. Today, let's take a break from the house building updates and take a closer look at Tieu Ca's daily life. From her everyday tasks to the heartfelt feelings she may be developing for CEO Hmong. Meanwhile, her persistent ex-husband continues to reappear with unpredictable intentions. How will Tieu Ca deal with the past while facing the possibilities of a new future? Stay tuned and let the story unfold before your eyes. As usual, a new day began for Tieu Ca with her familiar routine, going to the market. She walked along the well-worn paths of the peaceful countryside, carrying a bamboo basket full of fresh bamboo shoots she had dug up early that morning. Today felt different. The shoots were more abundant, fresher than usual, just like her mood. Her face was brighter than on most days. The worry lines that had shadowed her for weeks were gone, replaced by a hopeful sparkle in her eyes. That's because her journey to find land and build a new home for herself and her daughter was already halfway through. After countless inquiries and negotiations, she finally secured a small plot of land, just big enough to build a solid house, with room for a chicken coop, a pigsty, and perhaps a few ducks. Most importantly, the land was conveniently located not too far from little Tieu Han's school. Her dream of a stable life was slowly coming true. Her small business was also showing signs of growth. Her basket of forest vegetables, bamboo shoots, and free-range chickens became increasingly popular at the market. Everything sold out quickly. Returning customers were becoming regulars, and new faces were starting to remember her name. The modest profits she made each day might seem insignificant to others, but to Tieu Ca they were bricks. Bricks that would one day become the foundation of a real home, a peaceful future for her and her daughter. Yet, life was never as simple as the numbers in her ledger. Even though she had firmly cut ties with her ex-husband, the man who once dragged her life into despair, he still refused to let go. The phone calls, the unexpected appearances at the market, the lurking presence near their daughter's school, all of it stirred unease in Tieu Ca's heart. He said he regretted everything, that he longed for forgiveness, wished for a second chance, hoped to make amends and return to be with her and their daughter. But could those words really erase all the pain of the past? Could someone who once heartlessly threw her and their child out of the house on a stormy night truly change? Tieu Ca Rv, that tu kong kongia la quen. And it certainly doesn't mean going back into the same cycle of sorrow. She had to be strong for her daughter and for the future that lay ahead. She could no longer afford to be held back by the past. Because now, with a piece of land to her name, a growing business, and her daughter Tieu Han, the little light that warmed her heart each day, she was no longer alone. And more than that, there was now someone quietly standing by her side. CEO Hmong, a man of few words, but whose presence had been a quiet pillar of support through her hardest days. He made no grand promises, never spoke in poetic declarations of love, yet his actions, helping her find land, introducing her to helpful contacts, silently watching over each small step she took, made her heart waver more than once. That afternoon, just as the sun dipped behind the bamboo groves, casting golden rays across the narrow path leading to her temporary shelter, Tieu Ca held little Han's hand as they walked home after a long day. The breeze played gently with her hair, and for a moment everything felt calm, as if peace was finally settling in. But just as they turned the final corner into their alleyway, she froze. There, standing quietly, yet visibly troubled, was a figure she recognized all too well. It was him, her ex-husband. He stepped forward, unable to hide his agitation. No greetings, no lengthy explanations, just eyes brimming with tears and a desperate plea. "Ca, please let me see our daughter. Just give me one more chance. I know I was wrong." Little Han shrank back, hiding behind her mother's legs. But Tieu Ca stood still, her heart no longer gripped by fear like it had been in the past. "You had your chance, more than once, and you lost everything." Then, in a scene almost too surreal to believe, he dropped to his knees right there on the dusty path. "I'm begging you, forgive me. I'll make things right. I'll start over. I miss our daughter. I miss our family." Tieu Ca Kong Roi Mot Gyot Nuok Mat. Her tears had long dried up, ever since the day he changed and abandoned her and their child. She gently pulled her daughter into her arms and turned away, leaving him kneeling behind, pleading in vain. But it didn't end there. Time and again, he began to reappear, like a shadow trailing them from a distance. He stood quietly at the corners of the marketplace, followed her discreetly as she delivered goods, and even lurked near the school gates where little Han studied. At first, it was just the pleading look in his eyes. Then came subtle acts of interference, stopping her mid-conversation with acquaintances, showing up at awkward moments, and worst of all, scaring Han with his uninvited presence. She thought it was over, but the past continued to cling to her, like a wound that hadn't yet healed, now rubbed raw with salt. Tieu Ca knew that this was no longer about love. It had become a battle to protect the peace she had earned through countless tears and relentless hardship. She couldn't back down. She couldn't allow herself to be weak, because ahead of her was still a long road, and behind her was little Han, the very reason she had to stay strong and keep moving forward. That afternoon, as Hyung was on his usual way to Tieu Ca's house, he happened to spot a familiar figure lingering near the last bend of the alley. It was her ex-husband. His eyes instantly sharpened. Without hesitation, he pulled over, stepped out of the car. The wind blew gently, but the air between the two men became instantly tense, taut like a tightly drawn string, ready to snap at any moment. Hung walked up, his voice calm but firm. "I don't want to see you here again. Stop harassing her and her daughter." The ex-husband smirked, his eyes filled with defiance. "I just want to see my daughter. I have the right. You don't get to stop me." Hung clenched his fists, trying to contain himself. But then he spoke again, this time his voice sharper, laced with anger. "You're right. Where was your right when you betrayed her, turned your back on her in the hardest moment of her life? She forgave you more times than you deserved, but this time she's chosen peace, and you have no right to take that away from her." The tension escalated. Words flew back and forth. The ex-husband blind to reason, and Hung, normally reserved, beginning to lose control. Then it happened. When the ex-husband uttered something cruel about Tieu Ca, Hung couldn't hold back any longer. Wham! A punch landed square on his face. The man stumbled back, falling hard onto the dusty ground. "Let this be a warning," Hung said coldly. "If you keep stalking or bothering her or the child again, I won't just hit you, I'll call the police. Without waiting for a reply, he turned, walked back to his vehicle, and drove off, leaving the ex-husband clutching his face in pain as the evening shadows stretched long across the alley. The engine started again, but this time, instead of turning toward Tieu Ca's house, the car headed straight to the familiar elementary school. Hmong picked up little Han and gently brought her home. When they arrived, Tieu Ca was already waiting in the yard. There was a brief look of surprise in her eyes, but it quickly softened into a warm gaze as she saw him and her daughter return safely. "Thank you for everything," she said softly, but with deep sincerity. He nodded, looking straight into her eyes, and for the first time, she could clearly see the quiet determination that had always been there. "You don't have to worry anymore. If he dares to come near you or your daughter again, I won't stand by. I'm here, not just to help, but to protect you." In the middle of the yard, under the fading light of dusk and the cheerful laughter of a child echoing in the air, their conversation slowly turned tender and light. There were no more accusations, no more tears, only genuine sharing between two people who had weathered many storms. "Tieu Can Hin Nan Ta, Valan Jiao Tian, Mot Jiu Gi Jo Bat Jiao Shao Tron Sao Ben Trong Ko." It wasn't the rushed affection of the past, but a quiet sense of trust, a gentle peace that whispered, "After everything, maybe." This time, she had finally found a shoulder she could truly lean on. After little Han ran inside, leaving the small yard bathed in the gentle light of sunset, Tieu Ca remained standing quietly on the doorstep. The evening breeze swept through her hair, carrying with it a faint scent of the countryside, just enough to awaken the memories and feelings she had long buried. She looked up at the sky, now turning a soft shade of violet, and suddenly felt an unnamed emptiness rising within her. It wasn't sadness, but a particular kind of loneliness, the kind that comes from being a woman who has grown too used to being strong. All this time she had told herself, "As long as I have my child beside me, that's enough. As long as the two of us can get through it together, that's enough." But today, seeing Hmong standing there, facing down her past, defending her without hesitation, her heart stirred in a way she hadn't expected. Not because of the punch he threw at her ex-husband, but because of his eyes. Eyes that held no judgment, only a quiet, profound understanding. Because of his hand, gently resting on her daughter's shoulder, as if she were his own child. Because of a promise, simple yet unwavering. "If he bothers you again, I won't let it go." In that moment, she realized, maybe she didn't always have to be so strong, that after all the days she had held everything in and swallowed her tears in silence, perhaps, she too deserved to be protected, just a little. Just enough to let her heart breathe. Tieu Ca took a deep breath, letting the breeze pass through her chest, carrying away the fears that had clung to her for so long. She didn't need love to come rushing in. All she needed was peace. And this time, perhaps that peace was closer than it had ever been. She walked slowly into the house, where the warm yellow light gently spilled from inside. A little home was beginning to take shape, not just built from bricks and tiles, but from the most genuine things. An innocent child, a resilient mother, and a man willing to stand by them, in quiet devotion. And so, another day came to an end, a day full of twists, turns, and emotions quietly stirring within Tieu Ca's heart. Will this new life bring better days for her and her daughter? Will Hung's sincere gaze be the one to finally unlock the heart that once shattered and closed itself off from love? Stay tuned for the next chapter in this heartfelt journey. If you've been touched by Tieu Ca and little Han's story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel to keep following along.
Cô bước vào nhà, để lại sau lưng ánh chiều tà đã ngả hẳn sang màu tím thẫm. Nhưng trong lòng cô lúc này không còn là màu u tối của quá khứ nữa, mà là ánh sáng lấp lánh của hy vọng. Tieu Ca ngồi xuống bàn, mở cuốn sổ tay cũ kỹ, nơi cô đã ghi chép từng khoản tu chi, từng ước mơ nhỏ bé cho tổ ấm của hai mẹ con. Trang giấy đã cũ, nét chữ không còn ngay ngắn như xưa, nhưng trong lòng cô dâng trào lên cảm xúc buồn vui khó tả. Từng dòng chữ thấm đẫm mồ hôi, nước mắt và những vất vả lặng lẽ của cô để có một cuộc sống tốt hơn cho hai mẹ con. Mơ ước một căn nhà không quá lộng lẫy, một ngôi nhà bình yên, giúp cuộc sống của hai mẹ con đi vào quỹ đạo. Cô khẽ mỉm cười khi nghĩ đến cảnh bé Han chạy quanh sân, ngắm hoa tươi nở rực khắp sân nhà. Rồi quãng đường đi học của của bé Tiểu Han sẽ được giảm đi rất nhiều. Cuộc sống mới đầy giản dị, những yên ổn, sạch sẽ và đong đầy tình thương. Và cô cũng biết dù con đường phía trước còn nhiều khó khăn, nhưng cô không còn bước một mình nữa. Bên cạnh đó đã có Hùng luôn đồng hành, sẻ chia và giúp đỡ cô trong tất cả những gì cô đã gặp khó khăn.